What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another video. My name's AngelX24X, and in today's video we're going to react to Jgod playing Black Ops 7, and he goes over all the different aspects of the game: campaign, multiplayer, zombies. And I want to see what he has to say because he has probably some more information that we haven't seen yet. But before we get into the video, we just hit 100 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. It's free. All right, listen, also, I'm trying to get better at making these videos, so leave a comment below. Tell me what y'all think. Give me some tips. Give me advice. I want to make good videos. All right, go ahead, hit that like button, so that way the algorithm, likes my videos and sends it out to other people, so that way we get more people to watch. With that being said, let's get straight into it. All right, let's get into this.
I got to play Black Ops 7 early and got a huge presentation breaking down all the different changes. I do highly recommend trying out the game before pre-ordering, but I'm going to go ahead and go through all the information we got, and there's tons of exciting stuff in there. The launches are usually pretty good, and then what happens after that is really always kind of the red flag, because
we've already seen this trailer in the background. This was a teaser.
Like the content that's coming with this launch is pretty interesting. So I'm going to be going through my notes because we got like an hour-and-a-half presentation covering campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. So we'll go ahead and start off with campaign. It says Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is set in 2035. It's gonna be the direct sequel to Black Ops 2, and we got to see the trailer. I'm sure as this video is going live, they're gonna be doing the Gamescom stuff, showing the trailer that we saw. It looked very Black Ops 2-esque. It's gonna be co-op up to 4 players, so you can play it in a solo, duo, trio, or quad. There's no matchmaking for that aspect of the game.
From a campaign perspective, that is actually pretty cool, right? Because campaign has been like the third child of Call of Duty, and the fact that they're making it a focus of the game is gonna add more replayability to the game and get more people on the game, to enjoy it, right? And now you can have 4 people playing the campaign, so now you can play with your friends. So there's more community to it, being able to play with your friends and everything, and so that's interesting.
Until you get into the end game, which we're going to talk about, and it'll scale. So like if you're doing it solo, you'll have a certain number of enemies. If you do it trios, you're going to have a certain number of enemies. So you can go ahead and do the campaign with your friends. And I know some people are like, oh, so what? It's just the campaign. I want to jump into multiplayer. I'm trying to go for Master Prestige. Yes, we're going to get to some of the benefits of campaign, which are pretty significant this time around. This campaign is supposed to be the longest in Call of Duty history. For the first time, you're going to be able to share progress with the rest of the game. This will be leveling. XP, you're gonna have weapons, the battle pass. The campaign will also debut its weapon mastery camo, which is gonna be the first time for the franchise, along with various calling card challenges, kind of what we've seen in Black Ops 6, where each mode had the individual.
I'm torn because as much as I like content, add content, everything is about a camo. I'm so tired of everything being about go get a camo. Like, I don't fucking give a fuck about a camo. Like, they come out with a game every year. Like, there's going to be a new camo in 12 months. The camos, the people that grind for camos are like crazy to me that you guys sit here and grind for this. A camo for a weapon. Bro, they have so many camos in the game at this point. They mean nothing. They don't mean anything anymore.
Challenges. Each mode had its individual camos. For multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone, there's also going to be a campaign-based one because the campaign is going to be very lengthy. You're going to have tons of opportunity to be able to do this camo grind in that mode, as well as max out your levels. If you kind of want to just take it at your own pace, you'll have that opportunity. So huge extra content there. The campaign, the base campaign, it'll make a little more sense in a little bit. It's going to be traditional 11 missions, mostly just linear all around the globe, including some reality bending segments because there's the hallucination effects that we have with the Black Ops series, and that'll impact the story. After you complete all of those missions, you're going to get what's called the campaign endgame, and essentially all the missions leading up to there, you're kind of just getting used to the mechanics of the game. There's going to be tons of different things you're going to be able to experiment, but the end game, it's going to kind of open up. It's going to be an open world Avalon map. You're going to have wingsuit deployment, so you can choose where you're going to go. There's going to be dynamic story beats, cutscenes, so it's not like just, oh, here, go do this. It's going to be actually progression of the narrative, and you can do this solos, again, duos, trios, or in quad, and there will be matchmaking for this. And since the map is so big, so it won't feel so empty, there can be up to 32 other players on the map, essentially trying to pursue different objectives in a PvE environment. And you
That's pretty interesting. Now, is it going to be like a division type vibe, or like what? Like, how is it going to work? Like, is it going to be like a campaign where you spawn in, you do the mission, and then you have to go back to the lobby, or is it like going to be a free roam type of deal?
might make some connections to MWZ or even DMZ, but this is not really like that. There's going to be a lot of differences that make it distinctly different. Unlike MWZ, it's not an extraction mode. There's no inventory management. Going to offer some unique punishing twist on the campaign formula where end game progress is lost if you die. So whatever progress is going to be like a leveling component where you're going to be able to spec into some different stats so you can have a little bit more benefits as you go. We didn't get a ton into details on how that part's going to work because I don't think they want to spoil everything, but it's going to have that opportunity where you're going to feel stronger over time. And just like MWZ, even though it's not MWZ, they're going to have that tiered essentially system over Avalon so that you could progress to more difficult areas of the map. And another first for the franchise is this end-game campaign will also receive seasonal updates in terms of content. So in season 1, you're going to get a content drop and then so on and so forth with actual more story beats, cutscenes, dialogue that actually
that is pretty cool
narrative. And it could be interesting to see how that progresses because like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that a lot of the studios struggle with is that supporting content post-launch, and
which
this
is
helps to support one aspect.
Always been the
problem.
problem.
Get into some of the others. Either way, anything's going to be better than MW3's campaign, which was like 2 hours. But I think this will kind of redefine what people think for Call of Duty story mode and what it has to offer because it's definitely a little bit different, interesting. I don't know if it'll do well or not, or if people will like it. But it is more content than they've ever had in campaign. With that, we'll go ahead and transition into multiplayer, which I think is where a lot of people have their main interest. Obviously, there's a zombies component in Warzone as well. Just like the campaign, the multiplayer for BO7 is going to be set in 2035. So that's going to impact the way the maps are designed, the movement, the weapons. Launching with 18 multiplayer maps, including 3 BO2 remastered classics. So you're going to get Raid, Express, and Hijack. And I believe it's 16 of these maps will be 6v6, and then 2 of them will be for their new mode, which is 20v20. It's similar to Ground War.
I'm glad that they did that. Having 16 maps at launch is really good. And then, because the previous Call of Duties, they'll say, oh, there's 15 maps, but then like 6 of them are for like the 2v2 pit mode or like the big maps. So really you're only getting like 10 maps. And this game we're getting 16 maps, 16 6v6 maps. Then there's 2 extra maps for the game mode they want to try. That's how they should have been doing it. I'm glad they're doing it this time.
Returning modes. This, like I said, the other one that's Ground War is kind of a variation of Ground War. It's not actually Ground War. Including in one of the other modes is coming back, including a competitive COD favorite, which is Uplink. I was a fan of this in World War II. They had a thing called Gridiron.
Uplink.
It countered
I'm glad they're bringing Uplink. That's really good. I miss the capture the flag style of game modes because I'm the type of player that I want to play the objective of the game that I'm playing. I don't care for camos. I'll go for the camos, but I want to do it passively as I'm playing the game, right? Like the end goal for me when I get on and I want to play 6 hours in a row, camo grinding isn't going to keep me on. Because there's camos everywhere. Everybody's going to have camos. There's camos here. Like, I'm going to get camos. And there's probably going to be camos that are better than the mastery camos, to me. So, for me, I play Call of Duty to play the game itself and the gameplay. I want to get high kill gameplays. I want to drop the kill streaks. And I want to win the game and play the objective. That's what matters to me. So, I'm glad that they're bringing a game mode that I enjoy in either Uplink or Capture the Flag. I'll take whichever. I'll play Uplink all day long and have fun dunking on people or whatever the game, however it's going to be. And I can't wait to like try to see how hopefully it's implemented well and the maps flow with it. And so we'll see.
systems, but I don't know how BO7 will handle this, right? However it is, hopefully people like it. Because without that jetpack movement, uplink will play a little different for competitive. There'll be 30 weapons at launch. 16 of them are completely new to the franchise, and some of the returning favorites like the Peacekeeper or the M8A1 are going to return, but it's not going to be a one-to-one copy because BO2 takes place in 2025. This is going to be a 10-year progress, so there's going to be some enhancement improvements to the models, the way they look, and so even though it's a returning weapon, it'll feel similar or familiar, but new at the same time. Classic.
I mean, that makes sense
after success in BO2.
Right, that makes sense. Like, you know, you have the AK-47, and then later down the line you have the AK-57. Like, it happens, right? So you have the Peacekeeper, now you have the Peacekeeper 35. Like, it makes sense that that gun has been updated in this year. So, makes sense. That goes with the storyline.
6, along with shared progress across.
Prestige should never been have taken out of the game. I don't know why they took it out of the game, but it's back.
All modes, including the campaign for leveling XP, like I said, weapons, battle pass, and more. The camo grind that has become a standard returns. You're going to have 4 mastery camos per mode. So that's a total of 16, including these. Obviously, we've kind of assumed at this point we're getting those, but obviously now we have it also for the campaign. But to add even more for the grinders, there's a weapon prestige now returning with multiple rewards. Normally you're just going to max out the weapon. What we've done for a while, you just leave it there. But now you can choose to prestige, and it'll reset the gun back to level 1. But in the process of prestiging, you're going to get access and rewarded with the camo that's specific for prestiging. And then you get an attachment, which they didn't really go into a ton of detail, but it sounded like this would work very much like an aftermarket part and modify how.
If any of the attachments are overpowered, then that's not going to be fun for a lot of new players. They're locked behind 2 separate things. Usage, time played basically, usage of the weapon. And then the second one is going to be prestiging the weapon. Now, when you prestige, do you lose all your attachments and have to like earn them back again? Or is it just you prestige just to prestige, right? Like, is there any substance to prestiging, right? Because if you prestige and you don't lose anything, there's really no fear of prestiging. The goal of prestiging is that you start at level 1 again, right? You reset, right? A lot of the times now when you prestige, you don't lose you don't lose your progress. So it's kind of defeats the purpose of having that fear factor of making that decision whether you should prestige or not. So, I mean, cool, I guess. Like, you're adding more things for you to play the game longer. And it's like, I don't care. Like, I genuinely don't care. Like, I want to play the game. And you're making things just take longer. Bro, the game only has, let's be real, the game only has 12 months, or 12 months really, but really it only has 2 months to keep you playing. So if the game isn't good, and after 2 months, all the grinding doesn't really matter at that point. Like, no one wants to hop on and get a camo for a gun that sucks. And if the gameplay sucks, they're definitely not going to want to do it. You know? And you got to think that a lot of people that camo grind now, once they're done, they stop playing the game because the game is not good. So, I guess, thanks for adding a prestige to a weapon that I already just wanted to get the camo for. Now, I got to prestige it 2 times.
The weapon works and functions, so there might be some standouts where it's definitely worth prestiging at least the first time to get access to this quote-unquote aftermarket part attachment. That's not necessarily what they called it, but that was the vibe that they gave off. You're going to max that out, and then you're going to prestige a second time. You'll be awarded a camo. You'll be reset to level 1, and then you'll get the opportunity to grind for weapon master prestige, where you can cap the weapon out at 250. So if you really have a certain weapon that you know.
So level 1 to 55, enter weapon prestige 1, get camo attachment. Okay. Prestige 1, level 1 to 55, enter weapon prestige 2, get camo. Level 1 to 250, reach weapon master prestige, get camo. So again, everything is about a fucking camo, bro. Like, oh my god, like, can we get some actual gameplay enhancement stuff? Like, you get the attachment at level 1, but like, then that defeats. It depends. See, and this is what I'm talking about with camos. They're giving you a camo for prestiging again. There's 3 camos just for 1 weapon. So again, you're gonna get a camo for everything, which is cool, but then like why is everything around camos? Like, can we make the game about something else? Like, how many kills can you get? Like, can I get a camo for how many kills I get in the match? Oh my god, everybody's just gonna go to the small map and just spam 24/7 camo grinding, bro.
Life, and that's all you use because that's the meta, or whatever you just enjoy a specific weapon. For me, I like a Peacekeeper a lot. I envision I'm going to have a lot of playtime on the Peacekeeper. Hopefully it's good. But yeah, you'll go ahead and max it out, and then you're going to be rewarded with some other accolades and camos and stuff like that for hitting a weapon level 250. And this can be done on all the various weapons, so a ton of grind factor. And keep it in mind, this is for specifically individuals that just want to grind. If that's not for you, that's okay. It doesn't have to be, right? Like, it's for somebody. And, you know, if you're feeling like there's still not enough to do, weekly challenges, similar to what we had in MW2 for content, are going to also make their return. And they've also like bolstered it up, they said, where now you're going to be guaranteed 2 different camos per one of these events with the season. Whereas before we kind of went through halfway, it was kind of like a checkpoint, and then you finish the other half, you get the camo. For the 8 weeks or whatever the case is. So now you're going to get guaranteed 2 camos as part of that. And that'll be in addition to whatever other events that are running that COD has been doing on the regular basis, where they last a week or 2 separate from these weekly things. So it's just more content, more stuff to grind on top of all the other various challenges, calling cards, emblems, and all the other stuff that you could really kind of grind through. And that's mostly just the progression stuff, but then we get into the new mechanics and perks. BO7 is going to introduce some new mechanics, returning mechanics. Building off Omni movement, players will now have access to wall jumps across the entire game for traversal and engagements. After using it, it functions very different than what we had in jetpack CODs. I'll say that. One of the big differences was, like, if you've ever actually played any of the jetpack CODs, you would just jump into the wall and it would like have like a magnetic effect and you would run across the wall. If you try that in BO7, you're just going to jump across the wall and you'll just fall down to your death. You have to actually do the interaction with the jump to actually make the mechanic work. So if you just jump, you'll just slide down, which I guess if you're falling on a high wall, I guess you could do this. And then at whatever point you decide to jump, you'll do your bounce off that wall. They are toying with some different things to see how many times you can bounce and chain jumps and stuff like that. It was pretty.
Why haven't they? Hold on. The game comes out in like less than 2 months, and they haven't figured out how many times you can jump off the wall. What the fuck are we talking about? Like, this is what we're talking about with Call of Duty, bro. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sorry. Like, you're telling me they're still trying to figure out how many times you should be able to jump and bounce off the wall? Like, like, what?
I think that's where they kind of want to start it. They didn't want to go overdo it. And they're kind of balancing that out, and they'll make a lot of changes around that with the beta so that it doesn't get out of hand, or that it's just not used because it's not useful. And then all the maps are going to be designed with some elements where these will be able to be functioned into the gameplay, which I think is a lot of fun. I think outplay mechanics are great.
I mean, they should still have it just in random spots on the map. Like, I shouldn't have to use the jump and then there's a fall damage or fall like off a cliff type deal. Like, there should be, like, as I'm running around the map, mini spots where I can do it to utilize like my movement through the map. It shouldn't just be like, you know how older Call of Duties, there would be like the right side of the map is a wall run specifically. If you failed the wall run, you're falling to your death. There shouldn't be that. It should be sprinkled throughout the map to where you can like do it off of a tank that's just randomly there. Because if I get into a gunfight, I want to be able to use the mechanic, right? It shouldn't be a forced location on the map where I have to think about it, because then it's kind of scripted. You see what I'm saying? So hopefully they've done a good job there with that.
Especially when they have drawbacks, like you can't ADS, you might need a perk or whatever like that, but we'll get into that. They're also added the ability to move while mounted, which isn't really a new mechanic to COD. Vanguard had this, but it's new to Treyarch COD. They basically explained it that we thought about it, and after time we're like, well, we get all this omni movement we're talking about, we might as well just be able to strafe while mounting. I'm not a fan of the mechanic, but I wasn't a fan of Vanguard. I'm not a fan.
I don't think anybody should be in a 6v6 fast-paced shooter. No one should be able to mount, and like you shouldn't be mounting. Like I get it, it's a Call of Duty, it's a realistic shooter, but at the end of the day, like there is a balance that you have to have between being an arcade video game versus realistic, right? And mounting slows the game down. It doesn't make it arcade anymore. It becomes more of a campy, like bullshit type of thing, you know?
One huge change is return of the classic COD sprinting. Removing tactical sprint by default with the option for players to add it back within the created class as a perk. So it kind of works the opposite of BO6 with the slipstream, where you have, you know, it by default, that attack sprint, but then you use a perk to remove it. It seems like they've gone the opposite way around.
No one's going to use it. If there's some advantage, okay, but like at the end of the day, like you want simplicity. I want to be able to just sprint and walk. Sprint and walk. I don't want tactical sprint, because now what you're doing is you're adding multiple aim down sight values to your gameplay, and it's very frustrating as a regular casual player to try to figure out what the best attachments are to counter that, right? I should only have to worry about one aim down sight statistic, and that's when I'm sprinting and I aim down sight. Simple, not multiple different aim down sights, tacks, you know, all that crazy shit.
And now, like, you'll do it that way. For me, I don't think or envision a lot of people will be using and bringing tactical sprint back to sacrifice a perk. Not a lot of value, especially when we have some crazy good perks and some other systems that we're going to talk about. Lots of new perks for faster overall movement, health recovery, sprint to fire, reload, so on. Things like gung ho, so you can fire while sprinting, could be pretty insane, especially if you get a good tight hip fire spread or something like that. But also the ability to add things like loopable streaks with a perk called Looper. And this is something you'll have to sacrifice in your loadout if you want to be able to loop streaks. If you're unfamiliar with this, essentially, if you had a counter UAV, a UAV, and an advanced UAV, and then as soon as you got that advanced UAV, you could start actually earning again towards that next UAV without a
I don't understand what Call of Duty's thought process is. You want people to enjoy the game, but then you're like, well, here, use this perk. You now have to sacrifice. Kill streaks should be its own fucking thing. Kill streaks should automatically loop. Kill streaks should count towards the next kill streak. That should be for everybody. It's literally the core of the fucking game. And you're hiding it behind a fucking perk, bro. Right? Like if I'm good and I go on a kill streak, I should just automatically get my next set of kill streaks. I shouldn't have to run a perk to do that.
So essentially that's what the streak system would work. Cold War had kind of a similar system, but they had the cool off period. And a lot of the older CODs, you were able to loop tons of streaks where that was kind of like the pub stompy feel. But this one, they're making it so you have to have a trade-off where maybe you're going to use perk greed to run the extra perk. Same thing with the tactical sprint. And you're going to have to make some judgment calls on what you value in your loadout. And if you're really not going on streaks regularly and you die often because you're playing aggressive, or it's an OBJ mode, we're going to be jumping on the hill regularly and not really getting to that higher streak, Looper might not necessarily be as valuable for you. So it's going to really...
See, I go the other way. I want my looping kill streaks because if I am playing the objective, I want the support of my kill streaks because I have no clue what the fuck my teammates are going to be doing. And if I have to rely on a perk and I have to sacrifice, well, now you're making it harder for everybody that is trying to go on kill streaks but also play the objective. You see how it de-incentivizes players to play the objective because now we're like afraid to die because we have to, bro. Like, oh my god, just kind
of depend on that, you know. And this one's going to really surprise you probably. And if you really love to equip a ton of perks, you're going to have the option to equip them all. Specialist Wildcard is being added to a Treyarch game. And this will work essentially like the OG MW3, which was a huge fan favorite option to be able to run Specialist, where you select your 3 base version of the perks, and then you get 3 additional perks as part of a streak, whether it's 2, 5, whatever. It's a score-based thing. And then as soon as you hit a certain score threshold, you get all of them. All like, I don't know, it's 20-something perks, or probably more than that now. I didn't get to actually count them when we were playing, and they didn't say a specific number, but it's a lot of them. You're going to be able to get all those, and you're going to feel unstoppable, like the Super Soldier.
That's what we want. I'm glad.
Package that you know used to remember. If you're an OG like that, you're going to have that, and it's elite. And another system they also expanded on was the combat specialties. So previously,
let's go back.
but it's a lot of them. You're going to score threshold. The OG for you. So it's going to really kind of depend on that, you know, and this one's going to really surprise you probably. And if you really love to equip a ton of perks, you're going to have the option to equip them all. Specialist wild card is being added to a Treyarch game. And this will work essentially like the OG MW.
Finally.
Which was a huge
option
to be able to run Specialist, where you select your 3 base version of the perks, and then you get 3 additional perks as part of a streak, whether it's 2, 5, whatever. It's a score-based thing. And then as soon as you hit a certain score threshold, you get all of them. All like, I don't know, it's 20-something perks, or probably more than that now. I didn't get to actually count them when we were playing, and they didn't say a specific number, but it's a lot of them. You're going to be able to get all those, and you're going to feel unstoppable, like the Super Soldier Specialist package that you know, used to remember. If you're an OG like that, you're going to have that. And it's elite. And another system they also expanded on was the combat specialties. So previously you had to equip 3 of the same perk color to receive a bonus. So it was 3 reds, you got a bonus, 3 blues, 3 greens, you got specific bonuses. That'll still be available for anyone who wants to spec 100% into that. But now there will also be 3 additional combat specialties by mixing and matching any 2 of the colors. So if you do 2 blues and a red, or 1 blue and 2 reds, you're going to get a combat specialty that is the same because you're mixing blue and red. If you mix blue, red, and green, you're not going to get anything, but any combination of the other ones, so they essentially added 3 more,
Nice.
blue, red, red, green, and green, blue. So you got all 3 of those options there, and that'll give you a little bit more flexibility if you felt like you were kind of being pigeonholed into forcing you to, not necessarily forcing you, but encouraging you to run all the same perk. Now you have a little bit more flexibility in the perks that you want to use, can actually contribute to getting an additional bonus, which aren't nearly as strong as choosing all the same perk, but still there nonetheless. Create a class. This is probably one of the most important parts.
You better say pick 10. You better say pick 10.
A bunch of cool stuff.
Better say pick 10.
But if you're coming from BO6, it's going to be very familiar. A lot of the stuff carries over that we've already kind of seen. Not in terms of, I'm not saying the guns are carrying over any of that stuff. I'm just talking about how the overall create a class system works. But they've made some changes to a little bit of the gunsmith. And there's a new thing, changes a little bit of the system for tacticals, lethals, streaks, field upgrades, which we'll get into. But for starters, you're going to get your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, you're going to get your dedicated melee. That's still the same. Primary weapon attachments will still be 5. Unfortunately, they didn't go the route that I've always kind of asked for, where you get a free optic, so you make it up to 6. And then you'll get the option to go with 8 with the wild card. One significant change in this created class area, though, is they've kind of dialed it back on how restrictive BO6 was. This is one of the things that led to a lot of staleness in create a class. And how they did this is now you'll be able to equip like a fully maxed out mobility build or a low recoil build. Because right now in BO6, it's like, well, if you want less recoil, you can only use this attachment or this attachment. If you want better bullet velocity, it's only this attachment, this attachment. I know that's a bad example of bullet velocity, but you were very limited on what attachments. So there was almost like an auto pick system with it. It kind of was very restrictive, even though they gave you a ton of options. Now you'll be able to go, I want full mobility. All right, I'm going to put on the barrel that does full mobility. I'm going to do, so it's going to be a little bit more akin to MW 2019, but without a lot of the cons that MW 2019 had on their attachments. It's going to be a little bit more dialed in, so you can just really have the diversity of the builds. And an absolute game changer that they added this year is the feature that we've wanted kind of for years, and that is going to be build sharing. And this is great for a lot of.
This is actually a really good idea.
Essentially, every combination of attachments in the game for every weapon has a unique code. When you put together the build, whether it's 5 attachment or 8 attachments, it's going to spit out a build number. And you'll be able to share this with your friends. I know on my spreadsheet, this is going to be great. I'm just going to have the TTK, and then I'm going to have a column, 5 attachment, 8 attachment. It's just going to have a unique code with the build. So all you do is just plug that code in, and maybe, hopefully they'll have some functionality in that. We didn't get to actually try this out in the build that we played, but hopefully they put like minimum level required or some other details to make it really functional so that people know what they're getting into, if it's a low level build or a higher level build or maxed out level build. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun, just streamlining the process and making loadouts easier to just swap and copy and trade and make it easy for friends, and then also for my content. So on top of all these changes, which are all great so far, they've added some additional depth with the creative class with this thing called overclocks. And essentially it's a way to buff your tacticals, your lethals, your field upgrades, and even your score streaks. And pretty much how it works is, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen when the guy goes into active camo. That is a field upgrade. I know there was a lot of leaks out there saying specialists are returning. when it was reality just specialist perks, and not necessarily the specialist like abilities that we've seen in Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4 or IW. That's not returning. The individual specialist system, that's not returning. There'll still be things like grapple hook and that we saw in campaign, but I don't know if that'll make it into multiplayer. They weren't 100% clear. But either way, the overclock system essentially allows you to use it, and as you use it, you're going to be able to unlock 2 different upgrades. And at that point, you can go ahead and choose to go with one or the other, not both. Both will be positives, and they'll actually make whatever gear you're using better. So in the example with the active camo, how it works normally is it charges, you activate it, you shoot a bullet, you come out of active camo, that's the end of it. It lasts for a certain amount of time if you don't fire a bullet. With the overclocks, you'll get the opportunity to either make the effect last longer, so you can stay in there for longer without firing a bullet. Maybe if you're going on a long route for a flank, that could be advantageous. So you go ahead and kind of sneak all the way around, nobody sees you, and then you get like a nice little 3-piece flanking the enemy. Could be really interesting with S&D maybe, or some of the other modes. There's tons of utility with that. But the other option, which I felt was a little bit more powerful, is that you can actually fire a bullet, and then after a certain amount of time of not firing a bullet, you go back into active camo.
That's pretty cool.
The whole time it's time.
I hate active camo, so but that is pretty cool.
And you could pick or choose that.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is gameplay that matters. As I'm playing the game, I'm unlocking more powerful abilities that I'm accumulating. Because at the end of the day, we're not playing competitive like the main goal of regular public matches is not always to, win the game, right? Again, there's so many different things you can do in the game. Camo grinding, challenges, and all that stuff. But when it comes to gameplay itself, I would like to earn things during the match. And having the overclock system allows you to make yourself powerful in the match later down the road, and you get to choose different things, which then makes each match different, which is more replayability, which is what we've been asking for. Thank you.
The base one is designed to just heal you, but maybe one of the upgrades is going to make it so that you can actually have faster sprint speed for a short duration. And this goes along all the lines of the different things. So UAV, you can make it last longer. You can make it do this or that. There's tons of utility with this to kind of make a little bit more depth to the creative class without overcomplicating it. There's no drawbacks. There's no downsides. It's not like AW or IW where if you took modifications to streaks, now their cost is more or something like that. That's not happening. You basically, if it costs 500 in the score streak, you can increase the duration. It's still going to cost 500. And I think this one's going to add a little bit of simplistic complexity, I guess, but I would just basically relate to it as depth. At the end of the day, there might be some meta strats like, hey, I want to go this way because this is going to be more conducive to my play style. So tons of options for whatever you want to play. So that's kind of the multiplayer aspect of the game. I think there's a ton of cool stuff in there that already tacks onto the campaign. And then we also have zombies. And zombies, they kind of went a little bit into detail. They didn't give everything though. Unfortunately, zombies is kind of one of those secretive type of topics. But coming from BO6, BO7 zombies will feel very familiar. Nearly all the systems are pretty much carried over. So perks, rarity, field upgrades, ammo mods, loadouts, and because of carry forward, gobblegums. All the gobblegums in your inventory, those will still be usable, and they're going to add more additional gobblegums, and they're going to do other content related to the game. They're going to add some more ammo mods and perks and stuff like that. But everything that we currently have essentially now in BO6, all the perks, field upgrades, all that look like it carried over based off their, maybe there's a couple one-offs, but in general, that's how it felt. With the exception of maybe augments, I think they're going to implement a new system, but they didn't want to share it with us. So I don't know, maybe we end up with augments again, but as of right now, that's pretty much what carried over for that. It will launch with the largest round-based map in the franchise history. It'll be similar to the concept of the BO2 Transit. If you guys have played that, basically you start at one POI, you jump on a bus, it takes you to another POI, jump on the bus, gets to another POI. Very similar to that, but literally none of the map, none of the traversal, none of the POIs are transit. None of the bus isn't on there. It's nothing like that. You're going to have 6 original distinct POIs that are going to feel definitely different from each other, scattered around this huge map with 7 traversal lanes to essentially connect you from one POI to another. There's like an X kind of in the middle, so you can get the option to kind of like from the middle. If you're in one location, you could technically go to 3 different locations, I guess, and it gives you the option there. It'll have a full main Easter egg along with a bunch of side stuff that we've kind of become accustomed to. It's going to have a full intro cinematic in every map. They said basically for BO7, we'll have that intro cinematic. The crew is going to be the 8 characters that we saw at the end of BO6. So the old crew and then the current crew that we've been dealing with BO6, they're all going to make it in this game with different voice lines and different dynamics and story and whatever. That's all tied in there. I don't know. I'm not a lore Andy, so I don't really care as much about that. Cool. If the game's fun, I focus a lot on gameplay. And then if the gameplay elements are fun, that's ideally the best thing for me. They said that there would also be like a huge like shared blog or something like that in September that would make everything make more sense. So I don't know. That's related to BO6 potentially having a super Easter egg, which I'm hoping for. If not, then, you know, all the content that's going to come with it. In addition to this, they've also added a survival mode, which is making its return from, I believe, also BO2. And at launch, it's going to use one of the POIs. In this particular case, this POI is going to be called Farm. It's a little bit larger than the starting room area, like because each of the POIs is segmented across a huge map, but this one's a little bit more streamlined, and it's just going to be the one location. You're not going to be able to take a vehicle, a wonder vehicle they called it, to go ahead and traverse, because it's just a survival map at one POI, no Easter eggs or no, you know, use of Easter eggs in that little section, and it's more geared towards just getting started, shooting zombies, maybe progressing levels, you know, going high round, whatever you want to do. Because as you start, almost immediately you're going to get access to the Pack-a-Punch, Wonder Fizz, Arsenal Machine, and the Mystery Box, basically almost at the start. So you would just get started, start shooting some zombies, and then get juiced. And then they said that over time they plan to roll these distinct POIs out. I don't know if a couple will come a couple weeks after launch, or the seasonal updates, or what, but essentially you'll be able to get access to all 6 of the different POIs. And they said in some instances this could be a little bit better for some people that maybe on the bigger map, like it takes them so long to actually get to the 6th POI that maybe it'd be more advantageous to have fun play start on that POI. So you get a little bit of that, but that's just the distinct mode that's not really overlapping or interrupting with the big transit styled map for that. And then on top of that, they just were like, it kept going. The presentation was long, but they're also going to have a Dead Ops arcade available for players. I've never been a huge fan of that, but I know people are. And you'll be able to progress levels, and I think maybe camos in there and all that type of stuff. So it's pretty bulky launch that they're going to be having. Again, like I said, I would hold out, check out the beta before you pre-order, unless you're just loving everything you hear. COD FOMO goes pretty crazy this time of year. I'm looking forward to the game, as I always am. We still got a lot of time before we get there, November 14th. We'll see how it goes. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.
All right, that'll do it. There's a lot of good stuff to take away from that reveal from Jgod and all the stuff that he got to see on the private stuff. The specialist returning is awesome. The overclock seems interesting. Again, it adds more depth to the match you're playing, because you're going to get another unlock, something to unlock in the middle of the match that can change the tide of a match depending on which way you pick. The creative class system still, I wish they would just go back to a pick 10, but the creative class system seems a little more interesting just with the added like booster you can get. So with that being said, you guys leave your comments below what y'all think about it. And hey, are you guys excited for Black Ops 7? I'm with the past couple years, I'm reserved. I will give the beta a try. I will probably get the game and play it for a little bit, but if the game's not fun, I'm not going to play it long enough. So with that being said, hit the subscribe button. We're over 100 followers. Let's shoot for 200, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.